I'm Cory Seller, and this is Good Game Edmonton. On this episode, we're talking about the North American Games Industry Summit and what it means for this city, for Alberta, indie developers, builders, and the community that's been doing the work. I've got 4 movers and shakers here at the GGE table who are making this happen. I got Marc and Chris from Meibel Consulting, the Alberta-based event company behind GameCon Canada and co-producer of this new Games Summit. I got Ronnie from Edmonton Screen, where the intersection of games, screen industries, and the creative economy is the whole job. I also got John from Xsolla, the title sponsor of NAGIS and one of the most consequential infrastructure companies in the global game business. Guys, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm really excited to dive into this really exciting new conversation about this new event on the Edmonton stage here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to start off with you, Marc and Chris here. Obviously, it's no secret. You guys have helped build GameCon Canada into, I would say, probably the largest gaming expo in the country. Not to mention business event of the year, by the way. So congrats on that. And now you're launching NAGIS to pair with it. For anyone hearing about this for the very first time, what is the North American Games Industry Summit? And what exactly is the gap that in the industry that this is trying to fill?
Go ahead, Marc. Take it away.
Sure. All right. So North American Games Industry Summit, powered by Xsolla, is effectively something that we've been working on in the background for the last year or so. So the decision was always to, activate a B2B event that's going to be tied into GameCon. We were just waiting for, essentially, Chris and I were waiting for the size and scale of GameCon to be big enough so that we could attach a B2B in order that we could inject the production that we have, the partners we worked with, the tech partners that we have, the 200 plus studios that we've been working with for the last 4 years for Canadian developers. And this is now our first B2B focused event where the primary focus is to have a neutral playground for people to come to Canada, do some business, meet all the amazing developers we have, introduce them to the international publishers we've been able to acquire, and then move forward on, and essentially this is year one, right? So these are the objectives for year one. And then we do want to grow it into a 2-day summit into GameCon Canada. And I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're basing this off a very successful business model from Gamescom Germany. Now, are we ever going to be as big as Gamescom Germany? No, because they have like 58 football fields of halls that they can fill, and we're just never going to get there. But we do have the infrastructure, the developers, a gorgeous venue to be able to do this in Edmonton, Alberta. And fun fact for anyone that doesn't know, we have now signed with the city of Edmonton for an additional 5 years. So we're here till 2031. So another great reason to launch this year and grow it alongside our partners.
Bravo. Congrats on that 5-year extension. That's huge news.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, anything to add on to Marc's remarks?
Well, I mean, there's so much, and I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of this stuff as we get going
yeah,
here.
absolutely.
But, the other big part for us, I think, was making sure that we were doing something that we could measure from a business standpoint and really make a difference for some of the indie developers and some of these people coming in that want to do business in Alberta. And so the pitch sessions is something that we're going to be focusing really heavy on for this as well. And that's where I think Marc is talking about the whole Gamescom Germany model, is that we're going to have dedicated pitch sessions with publishers to try to get some of these games picked up and to try to do something here in Alberta that's moving the needle. So I think that within what we're doing with our partners that we have, Xsolla, and we'll probably mention and touch on a bunch in this call, but we got reached out to by quite a few people. Geopolitically, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening right now. A lot of our partners out of the United States wanted us to do something because they need a neutral place to do business, right? That's welcoming, that's inviting. And we just happened to be putting on the largest gaming convention in Canada. So it kind of made sense for some of our other partners that had reached out. Because admittedly, like, Mark was saying, we've been working on this for a year. We actually have been working on this since day one. We launched a miniature version of this in our
Ah,
year one show,
true.
like very miniature, right? And with Fedor, who is our producing partner from Meet to Match, we started talking about this with him. So that was like, God, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
6 years ago, even.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been that long, 5 years that we've been talking about this. But we learned really quickly in year one that we needed to hyper focus on one project, right? And then get the business people here and then switch it over. So yeah, that's basically it.
Well, yeah, no, well, I definitely want to hear a little bit more about Meet to Match. Obviously, I was definitely trying to get Fedor on the show here for this particular recording, but obviously with time difference and everything, it didn't quite work out scheduling wise with everybody here. But nevertheless, I did want to make sure we set aside some time in a bit here to learn a little bit more about Meet to Match and their involvement and what exactly that means, particularly for this business event, as well as its future. Obviously, kind of leading into my next question, this is obviously not a one-off by any means, especially with that renewed 5-year commitment for GCC. I do have to ask both of you, because I'm curious, is this Alberta's or even Western Canada's version of, say, MIGS? We talk not necessarily Gamescom level, but, maybe, again, I've never been to MIGS, so correct me if I'm wrong, but, is this sort of that our own version of that in some ways, like long term, or how would it match up, so to speak?
I mean, so one thing for Mark and myself is none of the events that we run or own are like any other event that exists. So that's the first and foremost. We put our spin on it and we make it our own, and we target and highlight things that we think are important. You got shows like XP Game Summit and MIGS, and those ones are awesome and they're great for Canada. Our intention is not to be like them. Is there going to be a little bit of overlap in some of the way it's built from a B2B perspective? Of course, there's going to be a little bit, like in terms of panel, fireside discussions, things like that. But we already have a roadmap that we're going to grow this into, and it includes a lot of things that none of the other events are doing, and not in a competition sense, in that we're trying to create something unique here. And Canada is obviously important. Alberta is a huge focus. Canada is a huge focus. But I mean, it's in the name. This is the North American Games Industry Summit. This is for North America. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question, but
yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Obviously, being a bit biased, it's fantastic and honestly just huge for the province of Alberta and Edmonton in particular, obviously, really continuing to put it on the map in terms of gaming as a whole, to hopefully bring in more investment in other ways, of course, as well, and ways to just support, I think the broader community, the indie community as well, in terms of investment and growth, and just continuing to see that sustainable pipeline in so many different ways, starting with this major activation that's really bringing community and industry together. So I think that's super huge and really exciting to see and learn a little bit more as we go in this aspect of the show here. Kind of moving over to another aspect of this, as Mark alluded to briefly, like any good event, you need a committed and dedicated title sponsor to help make this happen. TELUS, of course, powers GameCon, and Xsolla is powering NAGIS. John, please, for those who don't know, give me the 411 on Xsolla, as well as a little bit about your journey leading up to this particular point.
Okay, so Xsolla is, like you said, one of the largest consequential companies. Actually, that's pretty flattering to us. We are a games commerce company. So what does that mean? We have all the solutions, all the tools, all the things for developers to launch, grow, and win at their game. So basically, in the vein of direct to consumer, this is the new trend. It is the future of the games industry. We're not the only ones saying it. It is actually palpable. And so we are uniquely positioned to have all these solutions that are necessary for, small indie guys up to like giant AAA companies to launch their games and sell them directly to consumers at scale. And so that's basically what we do. In that, it's a giant iceberg. I get it. We're not going to eat up the 2 hours here to do a deep dive into our solutions.
That can be another episode.
That could be a whole series, actually.
I'm game. No pun intended there.
That could be an entire whole series. But myself, I've been with the company about 5 years now. My background is indie developer. Been a serial entrepreneur. Started up several companies in the gaming space, and indie at core, right? So, like one of my first forays into the industry, we turned a team of 5 modders into 40 full-time studios, and then took that public and became a publisher. So that's pretty much what it is. My interactions with Chris and Marc started at the beginning of my career at Xsolla as RVP of Canada. So, we had this conversation. They were starting up Gamescom Canada, and it seemed like a fantastic idea at the time. I'm a big fan of Albertan games myself. I play, for example, Insurgency. Shout out to those guys, to the New World guys. I'm also a BioWare fan. Like, I have a Mass Effect sleeve. So there we go. Shout out to Edmonton.
That's a pretty solid commitment, John. I had no idea it was the whole arm.
It's the whole arm.
What?
And just to prove you, it's the whole arm, right? N7 and all. So it's the whole arm. So when we got in touch, they were planning, honestly, something crazy, and I thought it was crazy. I thought it was crazy. I was like, sure, So let's.
Everyone thought we were crazy.
Yeah, you're not alone.
First and foremost, you're not alone.
I thought you were crazy. So that's saying something.
I think high off your ass is what we heard most often.
I did not say that. I said you were crazy.
Not you. Other people.
Just the general consensus.
I thought you guys were crazy, but crazy enough to actually pull it off, maybe. So let's go. And the first time I visited Gamescom Canada was in Calgary, and I was blown away. Like, I was thinking, yeah, let's see what these guys can put their money where their mouths are. And first year was in Calgary. We went to Calgary. I checked it out, and I was like, okay, these guys are going somewhere. So skipped the next year, came back into the one in Edmonton, checked it out, and it's like, okay, so this has significantly grown since the last time I've been to the show. And there's always been that that B2B want to have that component added to it. There was like some germinating embryos of that in previous editions of Gamescom Canada. Overall, we still made it out really, really cool. We see some really fantastic growth. Like that dormancy is starting to wake up, right? And it's putting Alberta on the map, on the landscape, right? And my purview is national, so it's good to see something on the western side of the country, not necessarily the western side of the country, and to see this grow out, right? Because there is that talent there. There's BioWare, there's New World, there's like Beamdog, and like all these other guys that have built up a game industry despite the political climate in that province.
Yes.
And so, it's impressive to see. And so, when seriously NAGIS came to us and landed on my desk, the CMO was already pointing at it. So our CMO. And we're like, okay, so let's commit, let's do it, let's blow it out of the water. It's almost like a perfect storm kind of environment, given from my perspective, the Canadian perspective of other shows and the participation of Canadians in international shows. So let's bring it home. Let's do something at home and see where it goes. So I'm jazzed. I'm actually jazzed.
No, I love that. I guess just from, I guess it's kind of a two-parter, because you're bringing your personal passion physically, like literally on your skin physically, as well as from a company standpoint with Xsolla. What is it about, I would say particularly the Alberta market to invest in for this event, but obviously other areas that, Xsolla has been involved with. We've seen programming with the Accelerator program with Scaffold Institute, as well as obviously this being the next big thing, I would say, in the Alberta market. So I guess why Alberta, and why now particularly?
Why now? Well, here's from our perspective, we have a philosophy of bringing opportunities to game developers. And, some parts of this country have very robust infrastructure and opportunities already, and Alberta seems to be very underserved and dormant, despite the talent that exists and the history that exists in Alberta. And so we are always looking for opportunities of where we can deploy resources and opportunities. And this seems like a good fit. Scaffold was a really good fit. at the time. We have our own accelerator. They had their own accelerator. Seems like it was a good fit. We are very business minded as well as a company. And so bringing knowledge of game business to the masses and to the industry at large is entirely beneficial to all. And we know Fedor, we work with Fedor and Meet to Match at scale and in a global sense as well. So when he was open to be a part of NAGIS to this scale, we knew we had to be there, and we knew that we can bring a lot of opportunities to Alberta, but also to Western Canada in general, and to Canada at large, and even North America at large. So this destination that's being built up not only impacts locally, like the city of Edmonton, but also impacts the whole northwestern region of the continent.
No, 100%. Well, speaking of local, Ronnie, Edmonton Screen, thank you for waiting patiently. I know my brunch buddy, everybody. Good times, good times. I don't know how he still manages to keep answering my messages, so this is great. Thank you for being on.
You make
I know
it easy, Cory.
we've talked
You make it
about
easy.
it. We've talked about you coming on the show, and super excited to have you on as well here. Ronnie, so for those who don't know, obviously Edmonton Screen supports the region's creative economy through strategic investment, programming, industry connections. And of course, according to the newly refreshed Edmonton Screen website, locally there's about 45 active studios and 32 games currently in development, with obviously plenty of studios making noise like Caldera Interactive, Basement Bunker Labs. What does having this event, this new game summit, actually do for indie developers as well as the broader regional digital media and tech scene from your standpoint, being at Edmonton Screen?
There's really two things that stand out when it comes to NAGIS and also GameCon Canada.
Of course.
But with NAGIS in particular, it puts a spotlight on what's happening in the region, not just Edmonton, but Western Canada. And to be frank, it makes the event accessible to more than just Western Canada. So as Mark and Chris were saying, it's a North American event. It's meant to be a North American industry event. That spotlight that's shown on Edmonton gives studios something to look forward to. It's almost like there's now a summit that they can work towards, and that there allows them to come together to celebrate the industry and the work that they've done. So I think that's the first thing, is just the fact that Edmonton is in discussions. There's a long history of video games and studios here, dating back to the 90s. But when it comes to what's happening in the present day, NAGIS is one of the biggest news pieces and one of the greatest things that can happen for the local communities and the sector here. The second point would be it's simply more accessible. And this is one of the challenges for smaller indie studios, is it can be expensive to travel to Germany for Gamescom. It can be expensive to travel to San Francisco for GDC, even traveling to other parts of Canada. So for Western Canada, I think the accessibility for the event is huge. And the fact that it's in Edmonton, again, makes it so much more attractive and easier to attend as a smaller indie studio is trying to put their resources together to grow. So yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to, is there's now a spotlight on the Edmonton communities here, and not just for video games. This also extends beyond video games. You mentioned Basement Bunker Labs, so they're more on the VR side of things. So I think the fact that it's happening here isn't just a benefit to the locals, but also to the folks in Calgary, folks in Red Deer, Lethbridge. Everyone spread throughout the province has something that they can say is now close to home. So yeah, those are the 2 points that I think really, if I was in a position as an entrepreneur trying to grow my studio, it's a no-brainer to make the trip to Edmonton from Western Canada. So yeah, I think those are the two things that really stand out and how that helps the communities here.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that, Ronnie, because like one of the things, obviously, we've got a lot of objectives that we're doing with North America and Alberta and Western Canada and Canada, but there's a lot of really great things in this province. If we're just going to talk about Alberta for a second, you've got Digital Alberta, you've got the Calgary Game Developer Association, you got the Edmonton Game Camp, there's Scaffold, Calgary Economics, Edmonton Screen. On all of these guys, all have guys smarter than myself and Mark that are in those organizations, and they're all doing amazing things. But I think in Alberta, to now, everyone has been operating as these independent pockets. So for us, it's going to be, we're trying to create this vehicle where where we all get to come together and work together as one voice, right? So I think if we can accomplish that this year, that'll be that's our goal for year one, because there's just a lot of really, really, really great talent and really smart minds existing in this province in the gaming industry. So, yeah.
Chris makes a really good point, because even though we have strong communities here in Alberta, the private industry is not as large as many other regions of North America. So it's an Edmonton-based event, but it truly is going to have an impact provincially. And as things grow, it may have an impact nationally, internationally. It's really exciting to see what will happen over the next few years, let alone the next few months for the first event. But yeah, the impact will go far beyond Edmonton, and that's really important for the rest of our organizations, industry associations, even the post-secondary schools in Alberta. We're all going to have a new opportunity to impact one another in the IDM or the interactive digital media space. So Chris is right. It's really not just for Edmonton, but we're very fortunate that we're here for 5 more years.
That's huge. Yeah. No, 100%. And great points all around. I'd say one voice. I love that. And you talk about like post-secondary, that's huge, because obviously we've had Mike McCready on from NATE, who's also on the Digital Alberta board as well. He's got past experience with the VR space, and continues to dive deeper into areas like AI and different things like that. So yeah, definitely a lot of connection for post-secondary to really create that pipeline, that funnel, right? From students getting into industry and seeing these opportunities, whether it's showing off your game from a game jam, or you're actually building a studio and being able to showcase it at an event like GameCon or NAGIS, or even just local events. Like, we can talk about it in a bit, but I guess I'm curious, like we see other events coming up that try to be an annual thing, or monthly meetups and things like that. Mark, even you talk about these events that you put on, they're unique. They have your spin on it to make it unique, so it stands out and it's impactful. When you look at the other events happening throughout the calendar year in Edmonton or in the region, is there a sense where beyond those particular dates, is there more connection to be had with locally run events that maybe are struggling with funding to stay sustainable and things like that? Obviously, it's kind of an early bird question before NAGIS and everything, but I am curious, because obviously, like any announcement, there's always a little bit of mixed reviews in terms of how it stacks up against other events, timing wise, not quality. I want to stress that, just timing. But I am curious, like, is there a bit of a quick insider scoop in if there's anything to further support the local ecosystem in terms of other activations, like intersect and lead into NAGIS, or are a post-event continuation? I know that was a loaded question, so bear with me.
No, it's all good. First and foremost, we're not about competing against any other events,
of course,
right?
Of course.
And the local events like GameCon Canada, for sure, and hopefully the North American Game Industry Summit will be an incubator event for other people. It should create more things and more meetups and get the community more involved with each other. All of those meetups that they're doing, they have to happen. They're local, they're in everyone's backyards, and it keeps that communication going. We're just trying to be a vehicle to bring everybody together once a year, to be together and to have like one voice. But I think what our event will do is it will actually create more of these potential events and more meetups and more side things happening. And the more that happens, the better it is for us and the better it is for the gaming industry. And at the end of the day, regardless of what people may think that don't know about who we are and what we're doing, we're a small company. We're not a big Goliath company. Like, we're not. And for us, this is about like a rising tide raises all ships sort of situation, right?
And I mean, what Chris is saying with the NAGIS angle is absolutely accurate, and I can definitely speak to what we've done on the B2C side with GameCon Canada. So we work with multiple events that have gaming shows that are happening, and we do promotional swaps and ticket swaps, and so that's what we know this is going to happen because it's already been a proven success model for us, when we're working with all these different events, because we want to make sure that, everyone is in the community is successful so that this whole thing grows together, right? So, I know this is going to happen with NAGIS because it's been a wonderful experience with GameCon Canada doing so.
Yeah. And timing, the timing is because of GameCon Canada. There could have been better times to do the North American Game Industry Summit, but in order for this to work the way our partners want it to work, the way we hope it works, it's going to have to be attached to a major B2C event. And for us, that's our event. We own it, and it happens to be the largest in Canada. So that's, there's a couple of things that are super close, and we're like, ooh, that sucks that they're that close. But
Yeah.
but at the end of the day,
It's not
I like when it's not intentional and it's not malicious. But it's funny you say that because we have had people, even with GameCon Canada, we've had people reach out. And we had people reach out yesterday regarding NAGIS and regarding the timing. And there's never a good time. And it doesn't matter what date we would have picked, somebody would have had a problem with it, and it would have been too close to something. So at the end of the day, all that Mark and myself can do, and our partners, is we can put our head down, do the best job that we can, support the best way that we can, extend those olive branches, and just do the job,
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, going back to Edmonton Screen, Ronnie, like obviously this is huge for Edmonton. I think this is huge within the Edmonton Screen portfolio, especially for yourself, working hand in hand, obviously, with Explore Edmonton as NAGIS, with Mark and Chris working with them as well. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to really dive into your journey a little bit in terms of leading up to this point and coming across this particular group that's on this episode. So for those who don't know, obviously we've talked in the past, but tell me a little bit about your journey thus far, Ronnie, and how you got to this particular point at Edmonton Screen and your involvement with this particular event coming up this calendar year.
So for me, it actually was a very unconventional journey, but there was a common thread around the creative economy. And I think this is a term that's not so commonly understood, but the creative economy is one of the most, it's so unique when compared to other sectors, right? It's not a traditional type of sector where we're gathering natural resources, processing them, and then generating revenue and exporting products. So the creative economy functions so differently that I just want to clarify it first. So it really just comes down to people, right? The creative economy has an impact because it's about people creating intellectual property. They're creating content, they're creating movies, they're creating video games, they're creating interactive experiences. And this is both an economic and a cultural factor, right? There's two things at play here. So when people come together and they create great experiences, this includes the fine arts, but for our purposes, this goes all the way into the digital realm. So we start to look at film and TV as it's evolved, and that's part of the creative economy. We look at animation, visual effects, video games, XR. We consider that as part of the creative economy. And the common thread is that it's people coming together and using their creative ideas to create a product that people then enjoy. Right. So it's very different from a natural resource angle. So my journey actually started as a creative. So I went from the fine arts, dance in particular, into film. And then from that, I got into content creation. And that led me into the tech side of things because I became very passionate about the tech and the tools that are used to create content. Computers and technology was merged into that very passionately as I pursued my career. And it eventually led me to Edmonton Screen. So with Edmonton Screen, it all became clear to me that my common threads in the creative economy was to empower other people. And this came down to partnerships, providing creative opportunities, connecting people and creating new opportunities that may have been missed or otherwise unknown. And that's what really made things exciting for me when I joined Edmonton Screen last year. Chris and Mark and John I met more recently. And then with Chris and Mark, I was also one of those guys a few years back that said, what is GameCon Canada? Because this looks unlike anything I've ever seen in Alberta. And I just didn't know what to think at first. So anyways, that's kind of where my passion for creatives and supporting entrepreneurs came from, is because I myself, I have my creative and artistic side. I've been a business owner, and I've also worked previously. I was with Memory Express doing business development management, and I had a brief time with VR Cave as well before joining Edmonton Screen. So the perspective and the experiences that I've had, it's been really a common thread of creative economy and technology. So when I hear things like GameCon Canada before it even happened, there's the part of me that's an immediate cheerleader. I say, yes, this is amazing. And then there's the realities that also need to be addressed of, will this happen? Can this happen? How will it be executed?
I'm gonna tell a personal story about Ronnie. So Ronnie actually decided to take it amongst himself because it's like, okay, these guys are doing GameCon Canada. It's the first year. I'm gonna travel and see one of their food and beverage shows and see if these guys know what they're doing. And then when he came in after the show, he's like, yeah, okay, you guys know how to run an event. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We always joke around because people know the events, but they don't know our company. So everyone assumes that every project we're on is the first thing that we've done. It's like, we have been doing this. I've personally been doing this for 25 years. Our company's been going for 13 years. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, there's everyone knows Smirnoff, but no one knows Wirtz Beverage Company, which is the company behind it. That's very much like what our business is like. Everyone's like, Meibel who? May what?
Yeah, you're too white label. That's that's your problem.
100%. Wait, and I gotta stop for a second. Let's rewind a little bit. So dance? What kind of dance? What are you doing?
Yeah, Ronnie's he's legit.
Yeah.
Breakdancing.
Crazy. Oh, we got a killer after party this year. You're gonna have to cut a rug.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great experience. So yeah, it was breakdancing. This was
Very cool.
On stage with your line.
Oh God.
And now live from the mega stage, Edmonton Screen's very own Ronnie.
We got.
I don't really want to break any bones anymore, but you
might have to show up. I'm gonna let YBD know that you do that, and you're gonna have to do something.
He already has the Ronin bun.
Oh, there you go.
He's ready. He's been ready the last year, Mark.
He's been training.
Yeah. Oh God.
Good
I
stuff.
love that. Awesome. Well, no, really excited to see Edmonton Screen's involvement, Ronnie. Obviously, coming back to the event as a whole, obviously we talk about the kind of that overlap with it connecting into GameCon Canada. Obviously, NAGIS runs June 18th to 19th. GameCon picks up on the 19th of June through to the 21st. And of course, with NAGIS ticket holders, if I'm not mistaken, they get full access to GCC, which is
Wide open.
huge.
Correct.
That's awesome. I'm curious now, like, because obviously you talk about kind of some business components were visible at GCC. So now we got a dedicated event. So how do we see the business side and the consumer side jiving together? What are some of the mechanisms that are connecting the two?
I mean, I think this is something that everyone's going to have an opinion on. For me, I know that if they're sticking around, you're going to get to see the consumer's response to what's going on. I think that's a really important part. Anybody that's serious in their craft, an artist, a musician, a DJ, you like to see how people respond. And not only that, I think it's going to, the North American game industry for us is going to put some eyes on our show that might not have come to our show for a few more years to see what we're doing. And hopefully we impress them as much as we've impressed some of the other stakeholders that we're working with. So, I mean, I think that's what people can expect. It's like to have a really great B2B event, highly curated. And at some point we should talk about some of the crazy stuff we're doing for this, because there's a lot of cool things for NAGIS that we're doing, but then to flow that over into GameCon. And we're going to leave the Meet to Match B2B launch will be open throughout all of GameCon. So that's something that we haven't really started advertising yet, but it is a part of this whole thing, because Mark and myself have spent the world traveling to doing events and other people's events. And honestly, I think the best B2B business happens when you're having fun and like,
Yep.
I know there's going to be other meetings that are going to happen, and it's just going to, hey, let's get to that lounge away from all these people, and it's going to turn into something. And that's what I think people can expect.
John, from your perspective with Xsolla, publisher point of view, investor point of view, what's the value with this particular one? It sounds like an obvious question, but what's the value of having thousands upon thousands of consumers right next door for GCC, but while deals are going to be had at this new B2B function this June, and just having Xsolla's involvement, and what's the value? What are you hoping to see come the inaugural NAGIS event this year?
Well, it's like you said, it's kind of obvious, right? So at Xsolla, our clients, our partners are typically almost exclusively video game developers. And so what we do as a business is we facilitate that connection with their player base in terms of commerce, in terms of, community management, touch points, etc. And so what better way than to see it live on the ground, see these touch points. And not only that, I said we were a giant iceberg of a company. We also have our influencer teams. We also have an influencer platform. We have content creators and every single touch point that a game developer may need or want, we have some kind of finger in it. And so, at this edition, because of the high level of celebrities, esports events, live stream events, etc., we are sending some of those representatives from those teams who normally don't travel. So, right outside of TwitchCon, they don't go to anything really.
Yeah.
So they're coming to this and they're excited. They're genuinely excited that they get to leave their office and get on an airplane. So they're coming to see this. Other touch points is it's a giant gathering, and that's what we like. That jives with our DNA. It's a gathering point. It brings opportunity to a region that can have massive amounts of impact. I alluded earlier to a perfect storm, and the timing is good. The space is good. There's history here. It's not like, middle of nowhere. It's actually, there's some history and tie-ins to the industry at large that has impacted the world, like it or not. Edmonton has produced games that have impacted the world. And so bringing that nostalgia, that mystique to a place that people in the industry would otherwise not visit, right? It is huge. And it's the impacts of these meetings, these backroom talks, these, a publisher talking to an indie guy and having a lineup of people waiting to play their games or their demos or whatever, right? It's firsthand experience that would facilitate or even, lubricate a deal. So great stuff, right? And it's things that you don't see. Somebody mentioned Gamescom Germany earlier, because of the square, which is basically the size of a city, by the way, right?
Yeah, Jesus, a little overwhelming,
right? A lot of the business components are literally across the compound, right? It's in a different hall. Like it takes an hour to get from that area to the consumer side, right? Considering the sea of people that's in between the groups. And so you don't get to see that. Here you have that proximity, and because it dovetails, like the business side kind of shuts down at one point and then dovetails into the consumer side, right? It gives that opportunity for all the business guys to hang out there. And truth be told, like all the business guys, they're not just strictly business guys. They are nerds, right? They are nerds.
Yes.
And you're going to tell me that I'm going to fly out to Edmonton for a couple of meetings and fly out? Hell no. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to walk the floor. I'm going to play a Magic tournament or two. I'm going to bring my Warhammer army. Right?
Basic to somebody's.
I run a Jedi school with my wife, so I'm bringing lightsabers.
We've got so many surprises for just you, John. I promise you're gonna get excited. Oh, there it is.
Yes.
Right?
There he goes.
Where's
So
my
are we all
secret
gonna get
Xsolla
Jedi? I don't know.
So, for sure I'm going to like stick around. And everybody I know in the industry is a giant nerd. So why wouldn't they stick around?
True. It's true. I feel like there's some swag there, swag idea of I'm a nerd. So
well, unless you're some kind of NBA that's off doing golf.
We don't talk to those guys as much.
I dare even the golfers to have a good time at our show. That's for sure.
Someone just said challenge accepted, I feel.
It's like, guys, video games, celebrities, like why, and tabletop, like why would you?
But hey, why would you go? No, yeah, 100%. That's one of the reasons I think why everybody that we work with, especially President Group included, why everyone gets along and works so well together, because we also have a lot in common. We love the same stuff. You know what I mean? And we're passionate about it. I have met very few people in the gaming industry that are like soulless corporate monsters. They love what they're doing and they love the industry they're in. Like there's a real passion for it. So
no, Chris, those guys exist.
I'm sure they do. I just haven't dealt with them yet. As soon as I get on a call with those guys, I'm next.
Yeah.
Good times. Well, you guys talk about passion. You talk about some crazy stuff happening. So obviously, NAGIS is not just produced by you guys. Obviously, there's also Meet to Match. But before we dive into that, just to kind of get a broader scope of what to expect going into this and kind of feeding into GCC, Chris, Marc, tell us a little bit about what are some of the big things that folks can expect that you're really shaking things up for this year, especially with the inaugural NAGIS event. I definitely want to hear some of that crazy stuff. So lay it on us. What's happening?
I mean, we'll split this down the middle, Marc. So, I mean, I'll talk about a couple things. So our first speaker, we were obviously really excited. We have this powerhouse team that helped us put together kind of this show from the back end, our advisory panel, which, anyone can go on our site and check them out. They're all huge in the industry. But we got a connection with Brent Bushnell and the son of Nolan Bushnell, who is the inventor of Ataris. We were fortunate enough to be able to reach out and bring him in to come and talk about the future of gaming, his journey. And for people that don't know him, he's still quite involved in the gaming and with his son and their family. Like they're still very heavily like Brent, he owns a whole bunch of stuff up in California. And yeah, so we're really excited to have like somebody like that to come for year one to speak. And there are so many great people to talk about. I'm going to just do this one. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit because this one's for John. This one is for you, buddy.
Yep.
We have BioWare reunion happening with the original founders. That's happening for North American Game Industry Summit. So we're very, very excited about that. We think that's going to be an amazing topic. They're going to be talking about their secret sauce, what they would do differently today. It's going to be a fascinating panel. And I'll let you handle the rest, Marc. Those are the only two I wanted.
Where do you go from there?
Well,
where do you go from there?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is because, Chris usually talks about this segment here, but it's something that's going to be really cool too. So we have a amazing Hollywood agent. Her name is Tony Dominich, and she represents like 90% of the Marvel cast, right? Like you're talking Harrison Ford, Chris Pratt, Tom, like it just everyone, right? When we got our client list, it was like, oh, okay, you work with everyone. That's awesome. So what she's doing is she's doing a dedicated panel and working with YDV, right, from the Wu-Tang Clan, because he just finished doing a voice acting for Sega Shinobi, right? So they're going to be talking about the intersection between movies and video games. Actually, I believe Luke Azevedo, who's the CEO of Edmonton, is going to be joining that. There'll be some folks from Xsolla on that one as well. But that will be a really interesting topic to behold because as we, especially recently, right, with Alberta's film industry, with getting, these video game movies being shot in our province, right? I think that is going to be a wonderful topic. And the tips and tricks that Tony's going to be bringing up is that, like, hey, you don't have to break the bank to work with a Hollywood celebrity. Like, there are actors that she works with that are willing to do, voice acting or character narrative or whatever it is, for point-based strategies instead of just getting steamrolled by you meet your first third-party agent. And it's like, oh, it's going to be $150,000, and that goes to the agent that's closer, and they out on their percentage, and before you know it, you've just completely priced yourself out of any, chance of getting this kind of talent. And she's quite literally providing a handbook to do these kind of things, right?
Yeah,
so
she's
cool.
Everyone will be able to leave scanning a digital handbook on how to not get steamrolled by agents and how to properly approach them, which is going to be huge from a marketing standpoint because how many indie devs, the marketing part is usually the tougher part for them. So to bypass just the initial marketing and go straight to how do I work with Hollywood talent, it's not generally something that they're familiar with. So yeah, it'd be very, very interesting. Any indie devs that are listening to this, you're going to want to be there for that one, and you're going to want to get this handbook.
Take notes, guys.
And I mean, we've got two presenters coming from China, right, that are going to be talking about how to get your game discovered in a massive, massive market, right? So, I mean, there's this. We have marketing agencies that are going to be talking how to take your mid-level studio and the tips and tricks that they've learned over their massive career on how to engage and keep your community, right? Like there are every single thing that has happened. We have legal representation. We have, if you need anything for law, we have accountants showing up. So it's essentially, we're trying to curate the kind of topics that our advisory panel, right? Like that's just, Chris said it before. We are in this particular industry, like we're great at running events. We know what we're doing there, right? But in certain things, we have to rely on the experts that are guiding us and essentially counseling us on what we need to see. And this is why the speakers that have been chosen are directly impacting and advising on the stuff that we believe these developers need to know in order to be as successful as possible. I mean, we even have a crowdfunding expert coming, like if you're going that route, right? So I mean, it's going to be a fantastic entire day. Like that's all of Thursday is curated speaker sessions. Like we've obviously mentioned the big ones, the big three that'll be on the mega stage, but throughout that entire day is going to be an entire, it's going to be an entire day of stuff that we believe these independent developers are going to want to learn.
Love that. That's a chills.
Food. We gotta talk about food, you guys.
And
food.
the food.
We started talking about food. Let's
We
continue
got
talking
corn
about
dogs. We got mini donuts. We got it's way cooler than that actually.
You
I'll
got
let Chris,
brunch. No, I'm kidding.
yeah,
The Michelin
so-
star.
Yes.
food. Yes, we
Well-
do. So, and that's just it, right? Like, so part of what these events, everything we do from the production to the F&B, everything has to be at a level that we feel this industry is, deserving of, from the low-level guys that are just getting started, or all up to the larger companies we're working with and the bigger stakeholders. And we have celebrity chef Shane Chartrand from Top Chef Canada will be there, and he'll be doing the grab-and-go breakfast, the grab-and-go lunch, and for any VIP ticket holders, there'll be a 3-course meal that he'll be hosting. So it is like everybody gets to have his food, and he's an Indigenous chef, which is really awesome. And the whole menu is going to be Indigenous themed. So it'll also be an experience that a lot of people haven't had before, at a level people haven't experienced. So we're really, really excited about, the speakers, our sponsors, the food. It's just, everything is going to be elevated.
I guess one thing we
Cory
haven't
is already
talked about,
salivating.
I'm so hungry now.
I guess one thing we should talk about too, which will be a really wonderful spectacle, is that in the mega stage hall, right, which is where a lot of these C-suite presentations are going to be happening, and it looks like there's going to be even more. But currently, and these are just the developers that we've been able to provide a booth for. There will be developers that won't be showcasing on the showroom floor. They're just attending, right, because this is obviously a B2B event. But right now on the showroom floor, we have 55 video game studios and turnkey booth spaces ready to rock that are sponsored from Edmonton Screen, that is sponsored from the Alberta Ministry of Technology and Innovation, sponsored by Saskatchewan Interactive, sponsored by ASUS ROG. Like, these are really big power plays. And the thing is, we've done these kind of programs in the past for B2C, and it's been wonderful, right? Because they get their games in front of our audience, to which we are Canada's largest gaming convention. But now, with the introduction of NAGIS, now we're providing a vehicle for these guys to get their games in front of VCs and publishers, to which has not happened before. And like I said, that's just what we have currently. We know there's going to be more before the launch date, especially with the turnkeys, right? We know there's going to be obviously more than 55 developers, way more. But as far as like boots on the ground, like turnkey booth space is ready. It's going to be an entire hall full of, games to play, which is going to be really, really awesome.
What Mark's saying is exactly what I was referring to earlier about accessibility. Like, all of these indie studios in the region have access to sponsored spaces, and we're just not seeing that at a lot of other events that are happening. So there's so much more accessibility and opportunities for these studios to get involved. So it's like, if I was an indie studio, it now becomes a date on my calendar to work towards. Right? There's milestones that you can work backwards on and say, okay, we need to get our studio together. We need to get everything working in line with these milestones so that we can present at NAGIS now and GameCon Canada. But NAGIS in particular is exciting because it brings the industry together and not just the consumers. So now you're getting both. You're getting that you can get player feedback, you can get some user testing going, and maybe even a publisher will walk by your booth and say, hey, this is something we want to look into a bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Publisher, press.
There we
Yep.
go.
Absolutely.
Well, and everyone's going to get to communicate and talk. Like the meetings and the conversations that are going to happen and the advice people are going to get. Both of these guys on the call, Ronnie and John, their things probably going to get filled up right away, and it should, because the developers and the people that are coming, they need to hear from these types of people that can give them advice, steer them in the right direction, give them unbiased, advice on how to move forward. And that's going to be a big part of what this is, right? It's getting down there. Don't be afraid. Get in there, ask the questions, book a meeting.
I don't bite.
Hard.
He just swings you with the lightsaber.
Yeah, it's the lightsaber.
You might be convinced to duel him in a lightsaber battle. But
there you go.
Otherwise,
no, I'm good.
I don't have one, so I can't fight. But I'll try and use the Force. It's never worked, but
well, our two options on the call is either fight John with a lightsaber battle or to have a dance off with Ronnie. Both of which I'm prepared to try. So I'm ready.
or do it dance off with lightsabers.
With the lightsaber, yeah. That's on the mega stage.
Okay.
On the mega stage.
Feels like the scene from Phantom Menace now. So, epic music. We need epic music. Okay. Am I gonna get dinged for copyright? No. Well, speaking of setting meetings, matchmaking, that kind of thing, Meet to Match is a co-producer of NAGIS. Also, if I'm not mistaken, the world's leading B2B matchmaking platform for the games industry. They help facilitate structured one-to-one meetings between developers, publishers, and investors at events worldwide. Chris, Mark, start with you. Obviously, walk me through what's the Meet to Match Lounge looking like in practice, and sort of how they came to be at the table for this new B2B event that you're putting on here in Alberta's capital.
No. Well, we oh, hey. Someone else is in the call. It's like I said, it started when we first launched GameCon Canada. So like, it's any big event that we've ever been to, that we've ever been a part of. Business happens organically, whether you have a B2B event or not. So that's what got that conversation started, was to have something so that there could be something to kind of foster that a little bit. And the relationship has just been there ever since. And we're always talking and bouncing ideas. And Meet to Match, I mean, they work with all the gaming companies. They're in it for everyone's success. They're working their butts off to make sure that everyone's successful. And I mean, our mission is essentially their mission, right? And I think that was one of the things, is that we're, Mark and myself have proven to be putting on shows where we are trying to provide free boosts for the indies, and we're trying to care about the right things, but also bring in the anchors that draw in the crowds. And I think I'm obviously speaking for Meet to Match and Fedor, but I think that was kind of the connection there, and we get really excited about what we do, and sometimes it can be contagious. And like I said, the people that are on this call and most people we work with, they're fans, right? So all of a sudden the ideas start flowing and what's possible. And that's really how Meet to Match came about, being a part of this. And then, of course, selfishly for Mark and myself, I mean, everyone on this call has more contacts in this industry than we do. We're getting there, but Fedor is just connected globally, at a different level, because he does all the events, and he's heard about some of the things that we're trying to do. And he's like, I know the right people we need to talk to make those things happen. That will be good for this industry. So, yeah.
From my perspective, Meet to Match is the standard. It's not just leading, it's the standard. It's the standard for anything business conference in the games industry. It has quickly become that way. And they have built a very long-standing relationship with Xsolla. At GDC, they were basically sharing the same kind of clubhouse space that we were hosting at GDC. The Meet the Match Lounge was literally the building next door. So yeah, we have this relationship over time, and drawing a platform that has quickly become the standard of meeting people to a show like NAGIS brings an incredible amount of credibility in the games industry. And so, people perk up their ears when they're saying, look, the B2B meetings are being supported by Meet to Match at NAGIS. I was like, oh, okay. Right? It actually changes the tune quite a bit. The other piece of this is for developers who are there and who have not traveled as much as some of the executives of the games industry. Being on Meet to Match and taking the time to create your profile on Meet to Match pays dividends. because that's how people meet you. That's how people get to know you. And that's how you set up your calendar to maximize your time while you're on the show floor. And that you're not just talking to Joe Public, although that's important. But, you're not wasting your time just meeting randos with no clear plan forward. In order to maximize your time, you need to have a properly done up portfolio. And I will tell you from experience that there are scouts who are actively looking at the featured games. So people who can't land a meeting with a publisher, maybe you should set up your meet to match before the meetings. And you should probably check it periodically to get meetings and also request meetings, because people who are on that platform are there to meet people. Right? They're not, right? They're there to meet people. So like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So definitely take your shots and do it early. Do it at least 2-3 weeks before the show opens.
Yeah.
Right? And
Fill
make sure
that calendar up.
Fill that calendar up before you show up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't agree more, John. Like the whole networking opportunities through Meet to Match, if you're using it 2 to 3 weeks in advance, that's kind of the standard. Without Meet to Match, it's hard to meet the right people. It's hard to connect with the right people. And when an event of this scale doesn't have Meet to Match, for me personally, I feel a little sad. It just doesn't feel right.
It doesn't work, right? And Ronnie, low key, we've met each other at different conferences and different shows. Low key showed you my calendar off my phone, and you pretty much have an aneurysm.
Yeah. It's effectively a month's worth of work compressed into 2 days. That calendar is
wow.
Yep. Yeah.
It's actually my quarter's worth.
Quarter. There you go. There you go.
If you count the preparation, the meetings itself, and then the follow-ups, it's basically compressing a quarter's worth of work.
So that's like I share the same opinion as John. Meet to Match brings a level of credibility to NAGIS and to events in general that if they weren't part of the event, I have less of an incentive to attend. Like it's that impactful.
It's become that. It's literally become that. And actually, that's one of the pivotal things that got us to sponsor NAGIS. It's like, oh, Meet to Match is involved. Okay.
We should also say this too, no matter what level of ticket, whether you're student, industry, VIP, everyone gets access to Meet to Match at NAGIS.
Yeah. There's no additional cost.
Yeah. It's just included.
You get the full meal deal with that. It's important.
Yeah.
And that, speaking to exactly what John and Ronnie are saying, that's why we did that. It's important that you have full access to it so that you utilize all the features and get those things happening. We're going to be doing things to help push those. We've got like I don't know if you call it speed dating, but we got some fun little side activations to get people talking and connecting. But yeah, Meet to Match is where it's at.
Now, for those that are maybe not necessarily developers or part of studios that are going to NAGIS, is that this is still applicable to them, whether they're, if they're not related to a studio or building a game or an investor, but they're still showing up. Meet to Match can still serve a purpose for them, yes? Or is it more so catered to obviously those primary?
Are you there for business?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, like if
fair.
I was gonna say, because we got tech partners that are coming, right?
Right. No, yeah.
But it's definitely not going to be for your hardcore gamer that was like just really dying to talk to a developer that they've been following. It's not so much for that. That's GameCon Canada. That's where they can run into them on the floor and then bullshit there. But it's primarily meant for the people that are there. And if you're doing business,
for sure,
John said it,
right?
For business.
If you're there to build strategic relationships, if you're there to sell something, if you're there to get a gig or get contracts or whatever, if you're there to do business, period, any kind of business, right? You don't have to be a giant corporation. You don't have to be an NPO. Like you can be an NPO, you can be a government agency, you can be whoever, right? As long as you want to meet people for a business purpose, you should be on Meet to Match, full stop.
Case in point, Marc and myself, GDC 5 years ago on the Meet to Match platform, event promoters. There to talk about an event that we wanted to put on in Canada that involved all those people.
Yeah. Full stop.
Yep.
And then you take a meeting, you put right in your little pitch. It's like, hey, I'd like to meet you because I want to talk to you about X, Y, Z. send them a request and they can say yes or no.
100%. Awesome. Okay. Well, no, that I love that. Thank you for that context. That's helpful. I was going to ask one question, but I'm not. I'm going to avoid it. But I'm curious, when you look at post-event NAGIS, to kind of see the reaction and the takeaways and basically just how everyone thought about it and just the stakeholders involved. Ronnie, I'm looking at you for this, obviously kind of zooming out and looking at this from an industry standpoint, from a community standpoint in Edmonton. Hopefully NAGIS and the players that be can maybe continue to perhaps fuel that extra proof point towards back to policy conversations, I think, to help the industry. Do we see this? And Chris, Mark, feel free if you want to jump in as well. But, Ronnie, from your standpoint with Edmonton Screen, do we see this being a very pivotal moment in Edmonton's community when it comes to game development to make the case that, policy conversations can continue to be had with, say, the province to continue to support the industry as a whole so that these types of events are just complementing the overall thriving industry here?
Are you hinting at the tax credit?
Yeah. Yeah. Just say it, bro.
I feel like I could be a politician because I feel...
I mean, it rhymes with max debit, and I'm just going to leave it there. And then you're
it's a brilliant question, Cory. And I think
I phrased it well.
We touched on this in the idea of there's a perfect storm opportunity here with NAGIS. And from, say, an advocacy perspective, yes, NAGIS does have a huge impact for our communities, for our sector, for the private sector as well. So after an event like NAGIS happens, of course there's going to be excitement and more interest in what will happen next, what will happen afterwards. For this perfect storm, it's just another element to add to that storm, right? So when it comes to advocacy efforts, this puts our communities in a position where we get to come together again and we get to talk about what are we all doing and what can we do together to put more attention on what's happening in Alberta. Because yes, in other provinces, there's incentives in place that have been around for decades, and it's had a huge positive outcome for the industry. And elephant in the room, we haven't seen it in Alberta. We haven't seen a provincial incentive in Alberta for quite some time now. It's been about 6 years, almost exactly now. So yes, what this allows us to do is it gets the conversations ignited again. During a period where there hasn't been much activity, not from an industry perspective, but from an advocacy perspective, we want to be able to get together and bring a united voice back to the table. And I think with an event like NAGIS, it's already been an impetus. It's already catalyzed these conversations to figure out what can we do to support the greater industry here. So yes, to be very direct, NAGIS has allowed us to re-examine what we're doing from an advocacy standpoint and what should we be doing next. Mm-hmm. There will be news about that in the future. There's always chats going on with who's doing what and where can we shine the spotlight next. And to be honest, NAGIS helped put the spotlight back on Alberta. So the fact that Meet to Match and Xsolla and other associations are coming together to support it, it's a starting point.
No, love it. Thank you. Thanks for indulging me. I really appreciate that. I want to switch gears for a sec to sort of the other component of this show. And I think what has been purely visible at GameCon Canada for the last few years, and really excited to see with the extension, esports has always had a presence, I would say, at GameCon. It's baked into the programming. You see competitive play happening. You also have casual play of setups that people can just sort of play some friendly competition. There's been other, I think booth setups for things like Red Bull, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I'm thinking of a different event. But nevertheless, a lot of different stakeholders and players to be had, but not to mention esports programs and groups as exhibitors as well. And the obvious one being this show exists, like I said, at the intersection of esports and game development, along with other sectors. So with this new business level summit, I'm curious, is there a lane for esports for, say, organizations, competitive teams, programs, entrepreneurial endeavors to build companies in the space? Or is that more so reserved for the GameCon side? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to all of that for sure. The focus isn't directly on esports from the NAGIS side at the moment. I mean, esports is obviously it's a tough conversation, not just here in Alberta, but in Canada. It's doing well in Asia. It does not quite as good in the United States, and then in Canada, we seem like it just. I think it has a lot to do with population base, but it's a part of the gaming industry. So yeah, like and when you see people, like some of the coolest moments I think that have happened at GameCon Canada have been watching people watch the esports tournaments off the mega stage and some of the things that have happened, and seeing people who don't watch esports get sucked in, and all of a sudden they're sitting there watching and enjoying it. It's cool to watch that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, Mark. I don't know. What's your standpoint?
Well, I mean, I think any category, especially if it's something that is wanted and something that needs to grow, we'll treat it at NAGIS like we do at GameCon Canada, right? So if you have people that are into esport business organizations that want to find partners to grow that particular field, then we have no problems going out and seeking those types of business folks to make sure that happens. It's no different than when we started in GameCon Canada, and the first year John was there, right? And everyone was like, "Where's all your tabletop role-playing games? We need more tabletop role." Like that was like on our website for like a month. We're like, holy cow. And then fast forward to today, we have a 3,000 square foot TTRPG castle we're building, and we have Jenny D showing up, and we have Deborah Ann Wool doing games, and it's just like, so we treat that like anything else. So if there's an esport want and desire to add additional programming and for us to focus on getting the appropriate people in the building, then we'll do so.
Yeah, and there's games being created that are being designed for esports,
Right.
specifically
Absolutely.
for competitive play, right?
I have a personal story about that. So my studio, when I started out in the games industry, was building a mech game. And this mech game was esports oriented, very focused into, this sub lore of the Heavy Gear franchise about mech dueling. So
Cool.
right, it was literally designed for that. It was designed to have like the crowds going crazy in the stands, customizations. You were able to build stables with your team and compete in ladders, etc. It was designed around esports. The whole thing was designed around esports, and it kind of helped at the time that people were dumping like Bay Street was dumping a ton of money into esports, seeing the successes in Asia. And so you see the rise of like all these esports companies that were building ecosystems around games. Fast forward to today, it remains relevant, and it remains a way for game developers to get their games in front of a wider, larger audience, especially if their games are designed to be played with multiple people with a competitive edge. And so not just streaming casually, but like competitively, games that are designed in that manner have an esport angle to their go-to-market strategy. And so having this integrated at GamesCon Canada brings that opportunity to the developers that are working on those such titles.
I want to have another conversation with you off camera about that, because I had no idea, John, and that's really cool, because I'm like, that's what really got me into gaming was the battle mech side of things. And like a movie, I don't know if this had any influence on you like it did for me, but do you remember
RoboJocks?
Yes, RoboJocks, man. That's what you made me think of when you were saying that. And I was like,
RoboJocks.
Man, that like my dream is to be able to buy some crazy pod that looks like a cockpit and arrives at my house, and I could build my robot and fight people all over the world and in an arena and battle and compete. That's just like my dream right there.
I do want to mention one thing on the esports front before I forget about it. As far as local esports is concerned, obviously up until last week, we had the NorQuest Esports program, I would say arguably as a true pillar of esports in Edmonton for the last few years, I would say. Sadly, the college announced it'll be shutting down the program. And of course, that also included a couple of personnel departures as well. Personally, just on a personal note, I will say this feels like a real setback for the community. Real setback, honestly. I'm trying really hard not to swear. But I'm curious though, because Mark, Chris, you kind of alluded to like if there's a need, people to reach out and drum up the excitement to be like, hey, we need this, we need something. In terms of local esports, and I'd love to get your thoughts, Ronnie, because obviously kind of being boots on the ground as well from Edmonton Screen's perspective, does this change kind of the local angle for esports being present at something like GameCon, or eventually in some shape or molded form at NAGIS, as you continue to really be that epic center of games, and to bring all walks of life to, from both locally and I'd say from an international scale? Yeah.
I'll talk about GameCon. So from
For
GameCon
sure.
Canada's side, it's not going to affect anything. It obviously sucks, and it is a big hit. I think it affects Edmonton like throughout the year versus just at our event.
Right.
We have a lot of esports happening at our event. We're still pushing it hard. We're still working with other Alberta institutions on the esports side of things. It was just more of a personal shot for us because some of those personnel changes you're talking about, and like NorQuest College was amazing to work with.
And year
Carlo,
one,
Jackie,
2023, like they came down to Calgary the first time before we were even proven, right?
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah,
yeah,
so it was
like
definitely
so.
personal.
They're a big part of what's happening. I think that we're going to see a lot more small little things open up in town because there's a lot of esports people there that need a place to go and to do this kind of thing. So I think that we might see stuff like that just kind of organically pop up, but it doesn't stop us from pushing any harder with the esports and making sure that our doors are open to esports and for those players and the communities to have an event that they see as a quality event to come and play and be seen at. We're always going to be that. So that's just at least from the GameCon Canada side of things anyways.
Yeah, I think it's sad news. I was heavily involved with NorQuest Esports before it was branded as NorQuest Esports. So this would have been even in the COVID era. So this predates Edmonton Screen's involvement in supporting esports. But what was built there effectively turned into a community hub and allowed their venue and their space to be used by different organizations. So in addition to that, we've lost the academic esports efforts that were being grown out of NorQuest Esports. What this does, though, for the rest of the community and for the industry is everyone is talking about it because it's so current, right? It just happened a few days ago. So everyone's reorganizing and trying to figure out what can they do next. So fortunately, we have companies like Overclock Gaming, and they've been a staple in the Edmonton region for years now. So there is a lot of support that's being built around the esports space with communities like the EFGC Edmonton Fighting Game Community, and their plans are moving and shifting around. So we'll still see these communities. We just have to figure out what's next, right? Like what are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
And this happens, right? There's always cycles, there's an ebb and flow to things. And right now, the current esports landscape is heavy on the academic esports rather than on the larger esports industry, the global esports industry. And I think that was the place where NorQuest fit very well, is supporting the transition or the growth where academic esports becomes a starting point, which then allows people and players to decide is the esports competitive scene and professional scene, is that the path that they want to go down? So personally, it makes me sad because I'm an ex-competitive Street Fighter player, and I've seen that whole journey as a player who's a complete noob and taking it all the way to the pro level. This is the sort of thing that's a setback, but there's resilience and a desire, I think, for these communities to continue. So
Sustainability.
it's a matter of how do we do it sustainably, though. That's absolutely right. So it is sad to hear that NorQuest Esports is no longer active. I completely understand what needed to happen there. So for the communities, it's just a matter of figuring out what can we do. What can we do next? We take the changes as they come, and we work together to figure out what's next. I know GameCon Canada has been a big supporter of esports in the past, with multiple tournaments happening, small all the way up to large scale events. So it's just a matter of everyone getting together and figuring out how to navigate these changes.
100%.
I can tell you that we've had a lot of people reach out to us because we actually have the Ace ROG finals happening at GameCon this year on the Sunday. They've actually taken over our mega stage for the entire day for a really massive tournament that hasn't happened since pre-COVID. It's going to be huge. Probably one of the bigger ones that's happened in Alberta, because this is a lot of people from those have already reached out to be like, we still want to be there. We still want to help. We still want to get involved. We still want to help make sure that this thing happens and properly.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think esports continues. It's just what Ronnie said. It's just what's next. It's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
For sure.
And where's it going to go?
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, as we wrap things up, I do want to go around the virtual table, as it were. I know we kind of alluded to a few things early on near the start of the show, but just to kind of reemphasize everything in terms of year one for NAGIS, you know, what does success look like for each of you and your respected companies that you're representing, and also just personal note too, like, you know, this is new. We like new things. Ooh, shiny. No, but you know, getting to something new and exciting for the community, and some big names coming out to Edmonton for this. Numbers aside, but obviously numbers are important for reporting purposes. But nevertheless, what are you wanting people to walk away saying about it? What do you want, regardless of where they're from, whether it's here, Alberta, Canada, elsewhere? Yeah, let's kick it off. I'm going to start with Ronnie on this one.
I think the important thing is just to get involved. These kind of opportunities don't show up often. So things like NAGIS, the fact that GameCon chose Edmonton over Calgary it's kind of a big deal.
Thank you.
It is a privilege to have these opportunities. So I think for communities, whether you're an indie studio, a AA studio, if you're into esports, it is clearly something unique, and the least that we can do is to take advantage of the opportunities. That's how you choose to do it. Up to you. I highly encourage people to take a look at what's happening at NAGIS, and if it fits what you're trying to accomplish, get involved in some way, even if it's simply attending. GameCon Canada, it's really about the consumers and the celebration of games. Whether, like, it's quite literally every form of game, not just video games. So I think these are rare opportunities that just don't happen often. And you'd think they'd be in another larger city, but that's really the thing that I want to emphasize the most is get involved in the ways that make the most sense for you, whether it's for your company or for you just personally, because that's enough of a show of support. It helps grow everyone. It's that rising tide concept, lifts all boats. So get involved and really explore what's possible and have fun. Like, the reality is, I've popped off in tournaments I've entered at GameCon, and I've lost and won, and it's a fun time, right? There's business and pleasure that happens, and I hope that continues regardless of what is your reason for attending. So if you're in the region, awesome, and if you're not, you should check it out and enjoy the business and the pleasure, because there's quite a bit of overlap when it comes to these creative economies, the video game industry in particular. So yeah, get involved.
I wonder what you look like when you crash out.
Let's just say a few controllers have been destroyed.
Oh no. Sounds like me. Chris.
Man, well, Ronnie said a lot of it. For us, I think it's going to be our partners, right? Having, you know, like John has been amazing. Ronnie's been amazing. We have so many good partners in this trying to help us be successful. It's going to be making sure that we do something that's at the caliber that we've promised, because we've got this vehicle. They're the engine that's helping to drive it. And we just want to make sure that we're doing something that's impactful, right? Making sure that we're bringing the right resources, making the right decisions, taking ego out of the equation, and doing something that really means something to the people that are there and the partners we're working with. For us, I think, for me anyways, personally, that'll be year one success, is that everybody walks away going, you know, we're building something, it's being built, right? I mean, year one, that's all you can hope for. You know, it's year 2 and 3 that really things start to shape. So for me, that's what it is.
Well, you know what? I've been following these two guys, Marc and Chris, for a while now, and I see that they deliver, they build things. And so, you know, this year we're going to roll dice and we'll see what happens. For us, success is going to be our industry partners, many of whom we've invited. many of whom we've told them that this is going to be a thing, this is going to be awesome, with the trust that it's actually going to be. So what it looks like for us, look, it's a new show that's being born in North America. Again, my purview is national, right? With a touch of regional. So if we can put Edmonton and Alberta on the map as a destination in the global circuit of conferences, and that this is going to be worth people's time and effort to make it out there, and that we can build something meaningful and impactful for the local economy, but also the Canadian economy as a whole and the Canadian industry specifically, then all the better for it. All the better for it. If there are multi-million-dollar deals being signed on the show floor in Edmonton, great. Right? That's going to be, and I see long term that this is going to become massive. And there's a high probability of that happening, and there's a high probability of Edmonton becoming a sustainable long-term destination for NAGIS and for this type of conference. So I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I'm all about flipping tables and pulling over chairs and building. Like, the one thing I really hate is stagnation. So move fast, break things has always amused me highly. And so this could be an opportunity to do just that. And I'm excited personally. So
Awesome. Yeah, no, roll those D&D dice. Let's see what happens. But yeah, no, last but not least, Mark.
It's kind of Chris alluded to it earlier. Like,
yeah,
for success for me is throwing such a elevated, fun B2B event where people enjoyed the experience so much. And to John said this too, that there's no reason to not stay and play games and hang out afterwards. That's for me, that's my success. Having all these B2B folks come in, get their business done, make some deals, network, future business, however that unfolds for developers, publishers, investors, all of that. And then they get that done. We go to the industry night on the Thursday, and then everyone talks about what they're going to do for the rest of the weekend while they're hanging out and playing games and just enjoy the rest of the weekend. For me, that's the best recipe for success. Execute on the B2B, make sure everyone's objectives are being met, and then spend the rest of the weekend playing games and having fun. Period.
So do your homework before you play games.
Exactly.
Probably good advice. Yeah, there we go. That works.
How about you, Cory? Same question back at you.
Oh crap! We are all hijacking his thing. Oh shit!
In a British accent, if you could.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
I was not. But it is expect the unexpected in this one, I guess.
Look at him. He's red like a tomato.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God. Wow. I did not rehearse this.
That's why we're
No
not
pressure.
live.
Oh,
Also,
yeah.
and also,
Yeah.
it's what you get for putting a bunch of trolls on your panel.
In fairness, I didn't know that part. That's
You
staying
didn't know
in
we
the
were
episode.
trolls.
Yeah, no.
Don't cut any of this out.
I'm not
It's all
cutting
gold.
any of this.
Yeah,
This is gold.
For sure.
Honestly, yeah, I mean, I really, well, just if I zoom out and kind of look at this as a whole for Edmonton and for Alberta, I really want to see this growing and expanding to really benefit every level when it comes to game development, indie developers to, AA, based off of what's already here, but also really setting the stage for further growth of new studios popping up, building new and innovative games, whether it's esports specific or just, something that the market is looking for, or they're just passionate about it and they want to build it, they want to grow it, they want to build the company and thrive in Edmonton, in the Edmonton area, as well as Alberta. This isn't a ECDev ad, but realistically, it's true. Because I mean, doing this show, I feel that connection to hearing about the struggles that people are dealing with at different aspects, whether it's trying to get funding. And, I really hope that this can help be an awareness piece, but also a growth piece for studios to grow and thrive. And this is one of those key pillars that's happening in Alberta, so that, not everyone feels like they have to go out to GDC or Gamescom. They have it right in their backyard, and they can attend this, and they can meet some of these folks that are coming from the international market, and they're coming here. They're coming to Edmonton. Obviously,
All places.
they're coming from all over, right? And obviously it's music to everyone else's ears, whether it's Explore Edmonton or Edmonton Global. But realistically, I really do want to see this being a true spectacle for businesses and studios, not just the consumer side, because obviously we got GameCon for that. And the fact that it's another 5 years, awesome. NAGIS will grow and thrive with that. And I really hope to just see more opportunities for investment of different levels. Like angel investment is super huge in Canada, Western Canada, with organizations like Startup TNT. So to see more opportunities for encouragement of more investment on that front rather than funding from nonprofits or big entities like the CMF and things like that. Just being able to have more options for studios, for other activations, whether it's more event focused, like, bigger, medium-sized events like GDX or, meetups and communities, so that there is that sustainability and, we're continuing to build more formalities on not just the game dev side, but maybe on the esports side to have them go hand in hand. So that's kind of the overview. Myself, personally, going into this year, I mean, I'm ashamed to say I don't have a ticket. I do
There's
have
time.
There
You
is
got time.
There is time, and I have limited vacation days left because of my honeymoon in May. So I'm definitely wanting to come out. So it's a matter of buying a ticket or seeing about that media pass as a podcaster. But nevertheless,
I see where you're going with this.
nevertheless, wow, I can't believe I admitted that. This show,
How do
this
you-
this
how
really
do
got
you-
away from me.
Asking.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
We
You
got you,
miss
Cory. We
100%
got
of
you,
the
buddy.
shots
That-
you don't take.
That
Yeah.
Word to John.
by
right there.
Wayne Gretzky and Michael Scott. Good
That's a
times.
John quote, actually. I don't know.
That
I
was
don't
a
know
John
if-
quote.
Is that a
I
John?
Yeah.
adopted it. It's
Okay.
mine now.
Yeah, you
Okay.
coined it.
Sorry, Wayne. Wow. Yeah, this really got away from me.
Did it?
Little bit.
Yeah, I think it did great.
But yeah, no, I figured I'd drop that. But yeah, no, regardless, I would say this particular event definitely draws me a little bit more than GCC because of the curiosity of the people that are in the room and what's happening. Because truth be told, like that's where I've kind of gravitated in the past, working in the ActDev space with Edmonton Unlimited and just that interest of community growth. It always kind of ties back to business in some way, and really, really curious to see how NAGIS shapes up, and not just, this year, but as the years go by. Yeah, it's go in with full curiosity like I do with this show. But yeah, I'm going to ask now, did that answer your question?
That was
Long
the best
rant.
answer of the panel there, buddy. That was
Yeah,
perfect.
Pretty good.
Cool.
Almost
Okay.
like we rehearsed it. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally. Yeah.
No, it was great.
It's the one part I didn't
Yeah.
have a script. One extra thing I'll add, it's nice to see that what I'm doing, I don't feel so much of an outsider, even though I still do. But 2 years in, but still, it's really, really fun, and we'll see where it goes. But
Well, thank you, Cory, for bringing us all together. Because
Absolutely.
honestly,
That was great.
we've never had the four of us in any type of interviews or panel
I can see why.
discussions.
Yeah.
So this is a good example of NAGIS is announced, and now communities are coming together to take part, right? So thank you, Cory, for bringing us together.
Yep. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, Mark, Ronnie, Chris, John, thank you so much for taking the time, and honestly for building this new event, to come into the table to help put this on. Really excited to see how it's going to shape the space and folks that are coming through the doors to experience it. We covered a lot. For everyone listening out there, if you want to be a part of it, the North American Games Industry Summit runs June 18th to 19th at the Edmonton Expo Center. GameCon Canada picks up from there to June 21st. Your NAGIS badge, like we mentioned earlier, gets you full access to both events. Get all the details and register at nagis.ca. For GCC, it's gameconcanada.com. NorQuestEsports.com. As Chris alluded to, things are changing every other day, week, month, so definitely check it out. And of course, if this episode resonated with you, share it with your friends, colleagues, family, or just broader network. And for all the episodes, head over to goodgame.ca or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, bring your A game at NAGIS and GCC 2026. Ellercast out.